Hey everyone, Bonnie Bernstein welcoming you back to the Athlete Effect podcast, where we showcase successful women in all different industries, crushing their careers thanks to life lessons learned through sports. Y'all, I am so excited for this episode because I know it'll resonate with so many of you, athletes, parents of athletes, coaches, anyone with an athlete in their lives. Jessica Mendoza is not only a softball Hall of Famer and two-time Olympian, but she's a broadcasting pioneer and an entrepreneur with a new batting glove out, and we have a discount for you at the end of the show. Jessica is the first woman to call a nationally broadcast postseason game for Major League Baseball and the first female analyst for ESPN's Sunday Night Baseball, among all their other platforms. She is such a good storyteller, y'all. You're going to hear stuff today that's helpful for young and aspiring broadcasters. We talk about what she's doing to advocate for girls and women's sports, not just here at home, but across the globe. Did you know that Jessica was actually going into politics before she got the job at ESPN? That's right, she's talking about that today in depth for the first time. And we're also getting candid about how our periods impact us, our performance, the way we feel physically and mentally in sports, and how coaches can create a safe space for female athletes when it comes to all things hormones. So, lots to get to. Let's do it. Jess Mendoza, welcome to the Athlete Effect Sisterhood.
This is awesome. This is really cool.
I'm so happy to have you here. It's funny because I've known you for a while, but anybody who's meeting you for the first time, within 5 minutes will realize that you've got a couple really big priorities outside of your family. Number one, serving as an example to girls who look like you about what the possible looks like, particularly in broadcasting. And number two, being supportive of and advocating for the advancement of women's sports. Why?
Because that is an opportunity that I feel like I wish there was more when I was growing up, even though there were other women that you would see, including yourself, and honestly watching those that have paved the way years before I was able to even get into broadcasting or even playing sports. But turning on the TV and just flat out seeing women is such a game changer. And it really lets you open your mind to what's possible. And I know see it to be it is something we throw around, but it's so real, Bonnie. And for you and I mean, honestly, like how many girls and women have said, I am doing this because of you. It's just so important that we continue to push through, whether it's talking about women's sports, being on men's sports, but most importantly, just getting more women that are amazing, but so more people can see and know about them.
Yeah. Sports was very much a part of your family. Your dad, Gil, was an awesome athlete, got a scholarship to Fresno State, and then he also coached football and baseball. How much was his athleticism an influence over you, and in particular, your sister, Alana?
I think especially because of his route. You know, he was bilingual growing up, first generation Mexican American, was told that he would never graduate high school, let alone go to college. And sports was literally a game changer for him. You know, the surrounding area, he grew up in Watts in Los Angeles, then moved to Long Beach. And so there was a lot of gangs, a lot of drugs, a lot around him that could have easily been the path that he went down. But sports allowed him to really see a different path, get the grades, be able to get a full ride scholarship, then go on, get his master's degree to then coach and teach other Hispanic minority kids in sports to help them be able to do the things that he didn't think was even possible for him.
Did he encourage you to pursue a particular sport because you were into basketball and soccer and track and there was softball and some tennis? So how did it wind up that you landed with softball?
He just wanted my sister and I to play sports and honestly just be active. So, and to be honest, I was an active kid no matter what. I was running around, jumping off couches, tree climbing. I mean, all the old school things.
They needed to tire you out.
Yeah, so they were like, how do we calm Jess down? Let's get her and sign her up for everything. So that's what they did. It was more of just like, clearly I was an active kid. I loved everything, but my dad really understood the transcendence of sports to life and the lessons that it teaches you. It did so much for his life. So he just really wanted his kids to experience sport, not to go on and be Olympians, but most importantly, to then be able to go to college and make great life decisions because of what we learned playing sports.
You probably didn't even realize it at the time, but I can't tell you how many women I come across who don't have the realization until they are well into their adult lives and their careers about this connection between what we learned from sports and how that plays a role in our success. What sort of messaging did you hear from your dad that might have been unique from other girls growing up?
I think understanding work ethic, and we talk about wanting to be good. You know, I want to hit home runs. I want to score 30 points. You know, everyone wants to be good. How are you going to get there? And so my dad was big on a daily basis being like, what are you doing today to get better? Whether it's as a person, as a daughter, as a friend, as an athlete, you need to do something every day to get better. And he would literally push us to and challenge us to walk the walk. You know, you say that you want to be the best. You say that you want to do all these things, but what did you do today, Jess? Like, are you getting better? And he had lots of examples of, hey, you want to go hit? And it was kind of cool because we didn't have a lot of money, and my dad would go to the store with like PVC pipe and like, you should have seen this netting, and he would like piecemeal these screens that we would throw on top of our car, and my sister and I would hold on to them and drive over to the park so he could throw us batting practice. He taught himself how to windmill, throw change-ups, do all these things that I look back on and I'm like, oh my gosh, like he was putting in the effort, but he wanted us to also match the effort. For any parent, they understand, I can't want this more than you. Yeah. So if you're telling me you want this, his biggest message that transcends into life is if you want to be great, show me what you're doing that's different from everyone else.
How much of a bonding agent do you think that was for you and your dad?
Oh, I mean, the whole girl dad movement gets me right in my heart because it is such a special bond. And any dad out there that has coached their daughter specifically, or has daughters, period, understands it is a different softness that I don't think most men understand exists. I saw my dad on the football field as a coach, head baseball coach in college, and the things that came out of his mouth, the level of anger and mad and just, I mean, it was like, oh man, Dad. But when he was coaching us and working with us, there was a love and an understanding of how to reach us, to get to the individual, which I think is so important when you're a parent working with kids. And I think it's something so special that only a daughter can bring out in their dad.
Yeah. I don't think a lot of people realize, because they see you as Jessica Mendoza, one of the best softball players of all time, that if you were a little taller, you might have been on a very different track on a different sport. For you, Stanford and the dream to play basketball, how did that not materialize?
Well, I mean, basketball was for sure my first love. And that's why I encourage so many kids to play multiple sports, because if I had to choose, okay, we got to play this sport year round, like the pressure is now, I would have definitely chose basketball, you know, in my middle school to high school years, because I topped out at 5'9" early. So I was tall early, thought, okay, this is going to be my sport, my jam, absolutely loved the sport. But then everyone else grew around me, and softball was the sport that ended up more choosing me. And I think it's a beautiful thing when you can play multiple sports, have different loves, but then have an understanding. I mean, for me, the reason Stanford was on my radar is because of Jennifer Azzi and watching those 90s Stanford women's basketball, Tara Vanderveer, and everything that she did. So that's why Stanford was on my radar. And then I was blessed to be able to get a scholarship through softball. But the whole point was it was multiple sports that got me there.
Having played pitcher and catcher in high school, if not for a pretty devastating knee injury, you might have been a catcher at Stanford, or would you have gravitated toward outfield for some other reason?
I mean, I was recruited to Stanford as a catcher, so that would have definitely been my path. I would not have made the Olympic team as a catcher because Stacey Newthman was by far the best catcher in the world at that point. So I don't know. I don't know if that transition would have made. I don't know if I would have even made the Olympic team, because when you're kind of positioned as a catcher, you're not exactly thinking you're going to play outfield now. So in a way, it was a blessing because of my MCL tear in high school. Even though I was recruited to Stanford to be a catcher, I couldn't catch anymore, and so we had to find an alternative position, and that's where, I mean, I see for sure the next level after Stanford, outfield was where I was meant to be.
I know you were part of the 2001 Women's College World Series. What was the number one memory that you came away from at that tournament?
I mean, honestly, for us being the first Stanford team to get there, and the experience, I mean, it was the first time someone actually asked for my autograph. And for all of us that were, my teammates were like looking around, because for women's sports, we maybe had our parents as fans, back on the farm at Stanford and, throughout college softball. So you get to the Women's College World Series and it's a whole, I mean, it is like, tens of thousands of fans from all over the country that have been watching you and been following you. And that had never happened. I'd never been on television before. It's the first time we were ever on ESPN national television. I still have that footage that replays of Ramona Shelburne, who does NBA games. Her and I were teammates, and I scored her as the go-ahead run against LSU. And, you know, looking back on those memories, and it's actually captured in a way that you got to understand, up until that point, we had never seen ourselves on TV before.
Yeah. And then you get to the Olympics and everybody sees you on TV. I always hear about the Olympic Village and what an experience it is. Obviously, playing in the games, winning a gold medal, winning a silver medal, because you were in 2. But talk a little bit about the experience of just being surrounded by the greatest athletes across the globe, all in one village.
I think the coolest thing is that, you know, you have 10,000 athletes in more countries represented than the United Nations. And so everyone always asks, you know, your favorite memories, obviously winning gold, being on a podium, those are the obvious, right? That's what everyone else sees. But to me, it was actually the dining hall, because you're able to not just, you know, be with 10,000 athletes, but you're able to literally walk over to another table. And I love my teammates and I love my girls. We had lived together for a year. So I would go sit with athletes from Iraq after we had declared war in 2004. I'm not flying to Iraq to be able to have a peaceful conversation with people. And I was able to go sit with athletes, their soccer team, and talk to them. And we're all in one giant dining hall, getting food from any part of the world that you could ever want. And it was literally, I never wanted to do anything but talk to athletes from all over the world. And what's so beautiful about the Olympic Games is we're all in this together. There are no enemies. You know, it doesn't matter what's happening in the world, and we hear that, but there's a reason why the Olympics stands above and beyond any other sporting event. It's because when can you get all of those countries in one space, living together, eating together, breaking bread, and saying, hey, I got you. Like, I saw your goal last night. That was sweet. And being able to support each other in a way that you just can't do it in politics. You can't do it in anything else.
What about those conversations in the dining hall around the Olympic Village? Had you leaving the Olympics with maybe a different type of perspective, whether that is cultural biases, the way we see things going on around the world? Were there certain conversations that you had that maybe made you think differently?
Absolutely. I think you realize that, especially as an Olympic athlete that isn't Michael Phelps or Simone Biles or, you know, the mega stars that you're going to follow in the 3 years that are in between. But for us, it's like we get 2 weeks every 4 years where someone is saying, I want to pay attention to you. What do you have to say? So not only are you trying to perform, right, but you're also representing something in our country and what voices that we have in that time that can be bigger than sport. And so I understood that pretty quickly of how are you going to use this platform? Are you just going to be like, thank you for the gold medal. This is amazing. I love everybody. Of course, like you have your excitement, but is it also a time to really say the things that you believe in and what you want others to know, that this is more than just having USA across your chest, but what does this matter in the scheme of where we're at globally right now?
I always love asking the question, how do you know you want to be a broadcaster? What was the aha moment for you?
I would say there were two. One, when I was called after, I was playing in our World Cup game against China, and it was on ESPN, and the producer called after, was like, have you ever thought about auditioning? Because I saw your interview, you have so much energy, we'd love to have you. And my immediate reaction, Bonnie, was heck no. Like, I got my master's degree at Stanford to get into politics. I had this like plan.
Wait, you were gonna be a politician?
Yes.
Yeah. Really?
So I had gotten my undergrad at Stanford, stayed on and got my master's in social sciences and education, already had a job lined up in DC when I made the Olympic team. But in my mind, I was always like, okay, think past your athletic career. And I always thought that was like tomorrow.
What was the job in DC?
It was working with the Department of Education Association.
Really?
Yeah, and through their foundation to, at the time, work on educational reform of No Child Left Behind at the time, which was a huge educational movement that was actually leaving a lot of kids behind with, you know, especially sports, music, arts, a lot of the electives because of test scores.
The budgets were getting cut because there was such an emphasis on making sure that kids would pass their classes that they were shifting dollars away from sports and away from music and the arts. And I remember actually around that time, time that, there were new schools being built without gyms. So I remember that.
And they were converting gyms into classrooms, but it was all about test scores. And that was the thing. It's like, I'm all about like getting kids, smarter and emphasis on academics, but it became an emphasis on test scores and taking away what actually helps you be a well-rounded kid. And for a lot of these kids, and most of the schools that were getting the funding takeaway were actually the poorest schools in our country. So we would go visit these schools and do walkthroughs to see kind of exactly what we were doing. And then we were able to give grants and money to those. I remember Chattanooga, Tennessee was one of our biggest, where we were walking through, and it was just like, what are we doing? These kids, of any kids in the country, need our help the most. And instead we're telling them, hey, your test score is more important than anything else that you can do. And that just was wrong. And so that was kind of my biggest goal, was to get to DC, get involved in politics and help reform a lot of the things I felt like were wrong. One of my favorite quotes is, "Be the change you wish to see in the world," by Gandhi. And I just feel like we complain a lot. We're a complaint society. We talk about the things politically, whatever, that are wrong. We'll change it. And how are you going to change it? Be active. And so getting my master's at Stanford was more about that. And then I get this call from ESPN.
And then you made a left turn.
And my answer was no at first. But I had some amazing people in my life that were like, Jess, go audition. What's the worst thing that happens is you go and you suck and they're like, hey, get out of here. What were you even thinking showing up? Or you go and maybe it's something you actually like. So my aha moment was not only saying yes and doing something really scary, but sitting down auditioning with Beth Mowins, the great Beth Mowins, who they brought in for my audition, not knowing, and they give you this, they give you no prep. It's not like, hey, this is what you're supposed to do.
It doesn't change whether you're auditioning or you've already been hired.
Totally, yeah, no. So sitting down and being nervous is all heck. And I remember the first few minutes of the game, I was like, oh, I like this. Really? And it felt like you and I just kicking it on a couch, watching a game. And instead of it being this live audience with thousands of people, I was like, oh no, I'm just talking to you. And I'm telling you the things that make this game we're watching right now so cool.
Yeah.
And that's when it just kind of was like, oh, yes, I like this.
When I think about the skills you learned on the field and how you're applying it to broadcasting, as I'm hearing you say that, I'm hearing focus. How much of that has played a role to just be able to put the blinders on and not worry about any of the outside noise when you are doing what you're being hired to do as a broadcaster?
Interesting, because as much as I can be hyper-focused, and it reminds me of For the Love of the Game. Kevin Costner has a line in that movie. It says, clear the mechanism. And it's like he's playing Yankee Stadium as a Tiger. This is me, of course, going into baseball, but it's loud Yankee fans like, sit down, all this stuff. And it's so loud, it's distracting him. And all of a sudden he says, clear the mechanism. And everything goes quiet. And I think any athlete who's played, and it could be at any level, but played in moments where the hyper focus just kicks in. We can't always control it. Like you can try to say clear the mechanism and it doesn't mute everything, but it is a beautiful place when it's a combination of adrenaline and just real understanding of how to hyper focus tunnel vision on one thing. Yeah. It doesn't always happen, but in broadcasting, I've learned it as an athlete. In the biggest moments, that's when it's me and you. In playing, it's the pitcher, and that's all that exists in this world.
It is a running joke with friends in the industry. If I was working a football game and they'd come up to say hello, if I'm getting ready to go on the air, you can drop an anvil in front of me, as long as it's not on my head, but you can drop an anvil in front of me and you are completely blocked out. I don't hear the crowds. I don't hear people yelling at me because I'm a girl on the sideline or whatever. And what I think about is, when you're competing on a balance beam that's 4 inches wide, if you lose focus, you're off the beam.
Yeah.
So it's something that I think about too. You and I, when we were preparing for this, we're talking about, I asked you, what is that number one skill set? And you said, dealing with pressure. So I want you to give me 2 analogies. A situation in sports where you felt the most pressure that you navigated, and then a situation in broadcasting where that ability to be able to take the pressure and not let it get to you came into play.
My first Olympic at bat, I was literally forgot how to breathe. I was like just feeling, this is the dream. This is what you've always wanted to do in your life, but I don't think anyone realizes what happens once you get there. It's easy. And I was actually coming up for my first at bat, and my heart was pounding through my chest. And I remember literally going, how do I breathe? Like I couldn't, it felt like oxygen. I had no way to actually like inhale and exhale like a normal functioning person, which is like one of the things that you work on when you are incredibly nervous is your breath. And I just remember thinking, okay, Jess, this is what you've worked your entire life for. And we can sit here and get freaked out and like, okay, we're finally here. You don't even know how to breathe. What are you gonna do? And instead, a smile almost kind of creeps up on your face. Like, let's do this. Like, why else do you play if not for the most pressure-packed, biggest moments of your life? And that can look like being a 10-year-old at a Little League at bat in the bottom of the 7th. You know, it's different for all of us, but you will have these high-pressure moments, every single one of us. And the question is, do you want to be there or not?
Comes back to what your dad would tell you all the time, right?
Have you worked for this moment? Because I'll tell you what, all the preparation, everything that you've done, ultimately should be because you want to have a seat at the table. You want to be at the head giving the speech. You want to be the one up to bat when the game's on the line. Now I'm in a booth, female for the first time, has never happened. And of course, my very first Sunday night baseball game, Jake Arrieta throws 30 plus years
for the
Sunday
Cubs.
Night baseball.
Yep.
Throws the first and only, never happened again. You're talking about, think of all the games, do the math, 35 years, what, 27 games a year? And my first game, the first female, and there's a freaking no-hitter. So guess how many people? We went from 1 million to 17 million. And they hear a woman's voice, and I'm very hyper aware of this. Pressure that is now more than quadrupled. And that's where being an athlete helped prepare me the most. Because it's like, well, why do I want to do broadcasting if I don't want to be in the biggest moment that could happen?
How did you handle it in the moment? Was it the same sort of approach that you took when you were at bat in the Olympics?
Dialed into Jake's slider. I mean, you just kind of, that's the whole thing with, I think the biggest pressure is, you talked about it with focus. There's so much to focus on.
Yeah.
Pick one thing. Same with a big at bat. I would just look at my bat and think one thought.
Yeah.
Whether it could be breathe, which was as simple as like, how do I breathe again? Or, you know, I look at the barrel, I want to hit the ball right here on this spot. And that's all I would think. In that case, I was focusing on actually deceleration of Jake Arrieta's slider, because at the time he ended up winning Cy Young that year. His slider was the best pitch in baseball, and it was really the second half of the season for him that he just accelerated. But I'd spent 3 hours with him the day before talking about literally the Pilates that he does for his body to build these back muscles, to allow his arm to actually decelerate, to allow that slider to get the spin that it was getting. And I was so excited to see it in action that's all I wanted to talk about. And then, of course, he was striking out the Dodgers offense, one of the best offenses in all of baseball.
But you know, what you just said is actually a really good point. And it's something that I think a lot of young broadcasters have to evolve and learn over the course of time. I think there's this propensity that if you want to do play-by-play or you want to do color, you're singularly focused on what's going on in the moment. But the fact that you spent time with Jake Arrieta the day before and he shared that story with you about Pilates, when you add that sort of human relatability, that moment sticks in a completely different way. Is that something that's always come natural to you, or did somebody teach you that?
Well, I have to give credit for that moment to have happened. One, I'd never been in a clubhouse. I didn't know how to navigate it. I had a great ally, and I always talk about teammates. They exist not just in sports, they exist in the workplace. And Buster Olney noticed how uncomfortable I was, and Bonnie, you've been there. Guys are changing, they're naked.
It is not the most comfortable place.
Day one of work, Jess, go ahead, go get all the information you need. And I'm staring at my phone because I don't want to look up, because I'm like, I don't know what to do. Yeah. I don't think a lot of people realize that is the space that, we are privileged to be in as women. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't want to go talking to these guys. They're all, changing and not often clothed. And so Buster recognized that as my teammate, our reporter on that game, and was like, hey, Jess, have you met Jake? I'd love to introduce you. And
that was nice.
He kind of recognized that I was super uncomfortable, was definitely not going to talk to anyone. I'm doing my first game. And he brought me over to Jake, introduced us, and just kind of created this like freer, more comfortable, easier moment for me to ask questions. And that's where Jake just talked for hours.
It's a great story. I want to back up though, because by the time you were named full-time to the Sunday night booth, you had already called a College World Series, you had called an MLB wild card game, you had filled in on Sunday Night Baseball. So there were a lot of firsts that were going on. It's one thing to just do it occasionally. It's a whole other thing to be permanently named to a booth. Take me back to that day. Did you expect the call? Who were you with, and how did it all go down?
Yeah, I remember it because that was one of my biggest points, Bonnie, was at the back end of that season, I appreciated this amazing opportunity to be on Sunday Night Baseball, but I knew I was a fill-in at the time. And I had done so many like women-only female things or even Hispanic things where it's like, check the box, cool, we did it that one time, that I really wanted my bosses to know, like, I appreciate this opportunity, but do it because you feel like I'm good enough and I can keep coming back. That was so important to me, to not just show up, here I am, there's a woman one time, and then I'm gone.
So you were advocating for it.
Yeah. Well, I just asked them. I was like, if you don't think I'm ready enough or I'm good enough, like, I totally get it. But please, if we can do this, I want to be able to come back on a regular basis. And it didn't mean I had to do Sunday Night Baseball. I just wanted it to not be a one-off. So when I got the call, Jess, do you want to be full-time analyst on Sunday Night Baseball? I remember I had my 2-year-old in my hand, my 6-year-old by my side, and we ended up doing a dance party because that's kind of how we roll in our house. A little salsa dancing, a little fun. Some Pitbull was playing, I remember at the time. And I was like, and my 2-year-old, I remember, was on my hip and he was just like, what's happening, Mom? Because I was like just dancing. I was so happy. And I was like, this is going to change things. Not just for my family, but this is going to change the landscape of a really important time for baseball to show that women matter, and women matter not just in the broadcasting booth, but as viewers, and to be a part of this America's pastime.
I want to ask you about the feedback. How would you categorize the overall fan feedback? And how would you categorize industry feedback once you started getting the reps in the booth and people came to the understanding that you were here to stay?
Yeah, it wasn't even once I started to get the reps. It was day one for sure. All the viewers, as exciting as it was to do a no-hitter as my first game, it brought in so many people. So it was loud quickly. And there was no middle reaction. It was like either loved it or hated it. There was a female doing baseball and it hadn't been done in ESPN. So there was a loud, and that actually surprised me. And this was 2015. So I was kind of like, a woman doing baseball isn't that crazy. Why is everyone going crazy? Like literally blowing their minds. I had film crews outside, satellite TVs outside my house the next morning because of this reaction, but a lot of it was in reaction to a lot of the negativity. There was so much like loud, go back to the kitchen, like crazy remarks that I was like, guys, you realize that like we're not in like 1800s anymore.
Oh, and by the way, I can call a game and make you a sandwich. Just saying.
I can do both. Wait, like you just tell me. That's I think what the biggest surprise is that people were so surprised.
How about industry?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only industry I cared about was the one I was a part of, which is the network that was making the decision for me.
How about the owners, the coaches, the skippers, the GMs, the players? What sort of feedback were you getting from them?
I mean, it was the most positive that you could imagine. To me, the fans were the more like ignorant, I would say, like where a lot of it, because my thing was, hear what I have to say. There's criticism no matter what sport you're doing. When I was doing softball, people would for sure be like, what are you talking about? She was throwing a curveball and that should have been, I'm like, great, that means you were listening. In baseball, it was like, shut up, you're a woman, stop talking. Everything was about like my gender. Whereas I would be okay with like, you're like, what you said about Jake Arrieta's slider, I didn't like, blah, blah. I'm like, great, you were listening. We disagree. I could do that all day long.
Yeah.
But it was such negativity on just my gender versus the industry, at least to my face, every manager, every coach, players, and so many players had sisters who played, moms who played. I mean, Miggy Cabrera was with the Tigers at the time. His mom was one of the best softball players. And like, he just had this, he ran over to me at spring training and just gave me this huge hug. I'd never met him before. And here he is, like king of all kings. And was just like, thank you for, he's like, I used to grow up watching your swing, which then made me feel really old. But like, you don't hear that. Like, I grew up watching baseball swings, but are you talking like a little boy, like watching a female? So it also gave me a reminder that not everyone's ignorant and that there are the people that matter that actually want women in the sport.
Easy thing for anybody to say to you, Jess, don't listen to the haters. There's so many people saying positive things. Just focus on that. It's a lovely thing to say. Execution, a little bit harder. How did you process through that?
Anyone who's on social media, and maybe you're just focusing on the positive, but our eyes tend to go to the negative comment or to the one that isn't, always nice. And those are the ones we get hyper focused on. I had to really change my relationship with social media. I like connecting with people. So I had always loved social for that reason. I could connect with strangers. This is really cool. But when strangers start saying things that I am now allowing to affect my life, I had to put up a wall. I had to be like, okay, we're done. I'm going to start listening to those that matter, those I want, and not positive. It was just, if you're a stranger and you're telling me, you could say I'm the greatest person on earth. I'm definitely not. Like, let me tell you all my faults. You're the worst person in the world. It's like, okay, can we get rid of the extremes? Where are the people that have substance? And that's where I had to really narrow down my focus on fans that I was allowing myself to listen to.
And your family, by the way. So like at this point, Caleb is 6 and Caden is 2. Are they starting to think that mom's really cool because she's the first to, show up on Sunday Night Baseball, or are they just, yeah, your mom?
I think that's the beauty of kids, is that they only see you for who you are. So their definition of me, especially, they could see me on TV, but I remember especially my 2-year-old was always mad because he's like, you never talk back to me when I talk to the TV. Like, you're so mean to me. I'm like, Mommy, hi. Mommy, hi. And then you just keep talking about Mike Trout. It's so annoying. And so their understanding is just, I'm mom. And at the end of the day, and Bonnie, what's so funny is, I think it was my son when he was in 3rd grade, I went and spoke to his whole elementary school. And I brought the Olympic medals, I did this whole thing. And at the end of it, he raises his hand and is like, Mom, when are you gonna tell me you're lying? And I was like, this is like 400 kids and teachers. And I'm like, honey, like, why is mom lying? And he's like, you never played in the Olympics. Like, what? And I realized in that moment, I've never told my kids. I've never even shown them the medals. I've just been mom and been totally okay with that. Because I mean, it never even occurred to me. Like, I am mom and I am who you want me to be. If they had asked me questions, of course I would have, but they don't know any different. But here I am in front of this large audience being like, oh no, honey, awkward, everyone. I did. Sorry, we talk about this later. Yeah, and he thought I was making
buried that headline while I was making you dinner and getting you dressed to go to school.
And wrestling on the ground and being a T-Rex mom and literally all the things that he knew me as, not one of them was an Olympian.
Okay, I'm not gonna ask you the typical working mom, how do you juggle working in your family? What I'm gonna ask you is that as a person who gives 100% all the time, as a person who embraces it, perfectionism, just like the rest of us, how did you become okay with not being the perfect mom all the time?
I think understanding that I can't do it all and that's okay. That to be where your feet are is the most important thing. I would lose my mind, and I still do when I am here, but trying to be involved in decisions that are being made at home right this very minute. Or be at home trying to salsa dance with my son on my hip and then also try to be on a conference call. Probably not gonna work. And that's okay. I'm gonna miss stuff. And trying to breathe and be okay with that and know that the message I'm giving my kids when I miss, again, a big performance for their elementary school in May, because May is the time when I'm never home, but that the value of them knowing that their mom is doing what she loves and absolutely following her heart to teach them that they can do the same is gonna outweigh the stuff that I'm not there for. And what I've learned as they're now 12 and 16 is they'd actually never remember when I'm there or not there. I'm like, but I was there for that. And they're like, oh, you were? I'm like, oh my gosh, I flew all the way back for Halloween. Or don't you remember how I missed the, no, I just remember that Johnny had a big booger in his nose. And I'm like, oh, awesome. That's what we remember from the performance.
But see, they will remember that mom is showing up in the MLB The Show video game, right? Like, I would imagine you all of a sudden became a super mom at that point.
Bonnie, I feel like it's so funny. I feel like I've done a lot, Like I have these Olympic medals and I've done Sunday Night Baseball and I've done all these things. Like, none of it matters. And then all of a sudden they're like, wait, mom, you're on our video game? what? Like, how did that happen, Mom? What did you do? Why can't I be on the video game? And they're just telling all their friends, like, it's the first thing I've ever done. And I'm like, this is the thing. But literally being on MLB The Show has been like the coolest. Finally, I mean, I'm still dorky mom, let's be real. But at least there's the secondary, okay, maybe for like 5% of the day, you're kind of cool because you're on this video game.
You have a situation where your husband made the choice to be a stay-at-home dad. And I feel like we see that more now as time goes on. But Adam is an ex-Marine who was a civil engineer. The dude is a guy's guy. I mean, he is. And I can't imagine that was the easiest conversation to have and the easiest decision for him to make. How did you two navigate that together to get to a good place that created really strong family dynamics for you guys?
Bonnie, that is such a great point, because I think everyone tries to navigate parenthood in so many different ways, but the expectation is that mom will stay at home and dads will work, but no one asks, Mom, why did you make that decision? You know, it's expected. But when a dad is making the decision to be a stay-at-home dad, it's always like, well, what's wrong with you? Can you not work? Like, is there something, do you have like some disability we didn't know about? And it's like, no, I want to be a dad to these boys and support my wife. And it actually started as something temporary because I was still playing when we made the decision. I'd had my first son.
Playing pro ball and
pro
working
softball.
at ESPN too,
yeah.
right?
So playing pro softball, working at ESPN, and for me to take that pro contract, and what I knew in a time when like it was hard to play professional softball, I knew that we could only do this together as a family, and he would have to temporarily take some space away from work. So when my son was basically 0 to 3 years old, we moved to Florida, played professionally, and then the NPF for the USSSA Pride. And it was such an eye-opening experience for us both. And really, Bonnie, it allowed me to say yes to more things with ESPN once I knew that my husband could have the flexibility to travel with me, to also have our kids be what I felt like was such a great experience if I was leaving, to have a parent at home and know that they are totally fine. My career would not have been able to get to the point it did if my husband and I together didn't make that decision. And what's cool is we did it temporarily. He was also able to go get his master's degree as well in that time, do things that he had always wanted to do. And he realized, I don't want to be an engineer anymore. And now his whole passion is to develop and work with boys through baseball. And it's just so cool when you can take a risk like that. But I give him credit for being proud of the fact that he's a stay-at-home dad. Like, he will tell people in a way that is, I am so happy that this is the decision that more men should be able to make if they can, and not always have it be just the woman.
And actually, the last time I saw you and Adam with the boys was here in New York when you were doing stuff for Get Up and the miscellaneous shows. You've had the chance to travel with the kids. And I love how what you did annually growing up, going to Mexico and traveling, has been something that you've also included your own kids in. And you recently went on a trip to the Dominican with Caden's travel team, baseball team. What was that experience like? And what were you hoping the kids would experience that's different from baseball here in the US?
You know, really the purpose behind taking my son's travel ball team, but really my whole family and a big group of us going to the Dominican Republic, was to gain perspective, but also service, to understand that this world is a lot more, and especially you talk to 12 and 13-year-olds, they think it's just about them. And I wanted to intermix and be around boys that play baseball in another country, but more importantly, I wanted to introduce them to a lot of the culture that I grew up with, and reach the girls too. I mean, we went to the Dominican Republic, we played baseball, we taught baseball, but then we traveled to the other side of the island to find the girls. Like, where are my girls at, right? And so I had my boys, and we had 10 of them, not all mine, but on the travel team, they were my clinicians. So I'm teaching softball, and then they're working all the stations with girls from 5 years old to 18 years old, girls that had never even seen a softball in their life, to girls that legitimately could play in the Olympics tomorrow. I mean, that was the disparity of talent that exists in the Dominican for these girls. And to have these boys, and you should have seen the field that we were on, and the lack of equipment, and girls not even having shoes, and for them to see, help, and experience with hands-on understanding of this is what it's really about. It's not about you. And it's not about the home run you didn't hit or the fastball that just missed. This game is so much bigger than results and success. It's really about the communication and the ways that we can help others.
Can you talk a little bit about, like you were talking about how they were sharing bats and helmets and the lineup on the styrofoam and stuff like that?
So we all got on the plane and we had one item. So we had our backpacks with our clothes in it and a glove.
That's it?
That's it.
Wow.
So no bats, no like big giant bat bags that have like 18 bats coming out of it and just like, look at me, I have all the things in the world. Literally just a glove and a backpack that had clothes in it. And that was it. And so they showed up in the Dominican with just the rawness of sharing one helmet that you pass along to everyone. Like anyone who played like back in the day, that's how you played. You had like a couple helmets in the dugout, throw them on. You had maybe 2 bats, everyone shares them. We were just sharing whatever bats we could get our hands on. No one had a bat that was made probably in the last 10 years. Forget about pop and composite. It was like, no, you better hit the dang ball, boy. Like this is like the old school baseball. Like there's no like gonna give you an extra base because of the technology with the bats now. So for these boys to go down there with the simplicity and basics and realize, oh, we can still play this game. And honestly, my favorite was the language they were able to speak with boys, that English and Spanish, yet them figuring it out on the field because we mixed the teams, how to be teammates, how to understand each other through this beautiful sport.
As you were flying home, was there any indication you got from the boys that they have the perspective you were hoping they would have coming after that trip?
So one of the things we had them do, I guess I lied to you, was a mitt, a backpack full of clothes, and a journal.
Okay.
So every night, we didn't want them to miss. So we would ask questions like, what are the differences that you're noticing when we're down here? What is the perspective that you have now going home? Just, what does it mean to be a good teammate? Just very basic questions that I think they were seeing amongst these boys that were down there, and girls. We worked with a ton of girls as well, which was the only reason I really wanted to go, was where are the girls at in the Dominican? Like, let's get them some softballs and some equipment.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you too. When you are traveling all over the globe, how are you seeing the growth of women's sports impacting other countries?
That's where we're seeing real change. As excited as we get here in the United States to see how much women's sports have boomed, the rest of the world has not caught up to even where our Title IX standards have been as far as just youth opportunities for girls, access to sport, beyond, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, be able to play in high school, play in college. And so what I've seen globally is what the boys have always had, which is just, you can just saying yes, because it's not even equipment and facilities as much as parents and culture being like, if boys can do it, girls can too. And so because of the global attention women's sports is now getting, when we're seeing on the World Cup stage for women, these female athletes from all over the world, now girls for the first time globally, are seeing girls that look like them do things that they want to do. And most importantly, their parents are seeing it too. So their parents are now saying, yeah, you know what? You can go play. You don't have to stay in the house. You can do what your brother is doing. And for a long time, forever, that has been something that is restricted. And so traveling the world, it's been just this constant push of the girls want to play. I've never had a problem walking into a room. The girls are like, I don't really want to play. No, they're like, please. It's getting their families and their culture to understand that this is actually the best gift that you can give your daughter.
Well, this is something I would imagine is really personal to you and relatable to me. So my brother-in-law's family is from Colombia. So I know all about La Familia.
Yeah.
And a lot of the traditional gender roles in Hispanic families. So when you're in those communities having those conversations, is it delicate to be an advocate for, hey, let your girls play sports. This is what I've learned. This is what they can learn. How do you have those conversations when you know there's this level of traditionalism that could sort of put a stick in the mud, really?
There's nothing delicate in a Latin family.
Okay.
So you're going to make change.
The question. How do you have the conversation?
Yeah, you're never going to get anywhere with passivity or delicacy. It's got to be like, what are we doing? Like, let's go. Like, everything is loud. And honestly, like, you've got to put it in their face of like, let's go. Like, do we not understand what these girls are missing out on? And honestly, like, I love going to these countries and just hitting. just like flat out showing them like, this is what women can do. Like, look, like we are strong, we are beautiful, and we can do anything. And that message, to me, it has to be loud. That's how you communicate. Any Hispanic family that I've been a part of, it's never just like tiptoeing around cultural traditions, because that is a great point that you make. It's literally slamming in the face and saying, enough, stop. Let's let La Niña do what El Niño is also doing. It is important for soy niña, soy importante, which is I am girl, I am important, for that message to be loud and clear.
Another way you're trying to get that message across is through a really fun book called There's No Base Like Home that you wrote with your sister Alana. And it's about 12-year-old Sofia Maria Garcia.
Yeah.
And she wants to be like her older sister, so she tries out for the middle school softball team, but she doesn't make it. And you sort of experience her journey. What sort of message did you and Alana want to impress upon girls in that book, particular to the life skills we learn and how those are transferable to the rest of our lives?
We're seeing girls now drop out of sport at alarming rates. The beauty of Title IX and 50 years of celebration is we have now opportunities for girls to play sports. But what we're seeing is they play and are signing up at those youth ages. And then puberty and middle school comes.
It all gets in the way.
And it drops off. What are these reasons? And so we wrote this book for middle school girls to help them find their identity and their voice that is unique to just the stereotype of what a girl should be. So whether it's diving into your culture, these sisters are Hispanic, and so kind of their identity, should I lean on my culture and my Hispanic when I'm at an all-white school? Should I, lean on this sport that I love so much, but maybe it's not cool? My body is changing. My feelings are changing. How do I navigate this space when I know that I am something different than maybe what I'm portraying? And so just giving girls the confidence to not only play sports, it was really important for me to see these images and the illustrations of girls playing softball, because there wasn't anything like that in the middle school market.
And you went through a couple of different illustrators before you could get the images. What were you looking for that you finally were able to achieve?
I didn't want wispy, skinny girls. I was like, and not that you can't be a skinny girl playing softball, but I wanted to see everything. I want to see thick girls. I want to see muscles. And honestly, if you're going to show me a pitching motion, guess what? You're going to see that quad flex and you're going to see a heck of a bicep. Give me that. Like, I don't want it to be this like, oh, I'm just a cute, pretty girl playing. Yeah, you can be pretty and cute, but you're also going to be pretty and cute and strong, showing the world what you can do.
So let's go down the period poverty rabbit hole. I do want to talk about it. When you are out in communities, and you talk to communities here and communities globally, tell me why we need to have more and frequent discussion about the impact of what's going on during the course of the month for women and how that impacts the way girls feel, both physically and mentally.
We're seeing, injuries happen. We're seeing a lot of, just this is why girls are stopped playing sports. One of the main reasons is when puberty happens, we treat it like it's when boys go through puberty. Oh yeah, they just get stronger and faster and everything just goes linear. Girls hit puberty and their body changes in ways that can actually be detrimental to playing sports. And especially when it's not talked about. My whole thing is like, we should be able to talk about periods and what's going on in your life and not have it be like, oh shit, oh, you can't talk about it. Like, this is something, especially because there are a lot of male coaches coaching female athletes. And I love that. Girl dad, product here. But let's make it so it's something that can be a part of the conversation and not uncomfortable for these girls to say, hey, this is something I'm going through for the first time. Help me navigate this. Two, okay, now I've been going through this for years, and I understand that my body cannot perform at the same level during these 5 days in the month. So let's start recording that and understanding and having it be a part of the conversation, just like it would be if it was anything else that we were doing. But somehow this is just for women and it's totally off topic. And that's why we see white pants. We see like outfits that you talk to any girl that's playing sports and it's like, excuse me. Like, I remember the first time I started my period, 9th grade, we had white basketball shorts and I literally couldn't play because I was so embarrassed of what could happen. So
the
I pretended I was sick.
The NWSL literally got rid of white shorts a couple of years ago because the players went to them and they said, we are uncomfortable. We are self-conscious. Why are we doing this? And so it's a great point you make. If you're in a room full of men coaching girls' sports, and you want to help them create a safe space for their female athletes, what sort of advice would you give them?
To be able to understand, first of all, each one of your athletes. What are they comfortable with and what are they not? I think a lot of times male coaches tend to just treat everyone the same, and whether they want distance or not, you're going to find that there's a lot of feelings there. And a lot of, hey, this is my boundary, this is not my boundary. And I think understanding as a male coach to female athletes that you really need to understand what's okay and what's not. That's number one, first and foremost. But number two is get comfortable with what a female athlete is. And that encompasses everything. And I think there needs to be more mandatory education. We see education for so many other things in sport. There should be mandatory education for how to coach female athletes. And that goes for women too, because it isn't the same. And so many coaches are used to coaching boys that when you're coaching girls, there are vast differences that I would say 90% of coaches would love to know. They're not saying, oh, I know everything about girls. Give me a man in this world that says, I know everything about women. Heck no, talk to any husband. They're still trying to figure out their wives.
Every day.
and that's okay, right? But if you could give a book, an education, a seminar that's like, here are some real facts and ways and tools to be able to coach these female athletes, that should be mandatory at every single level. And we would not see some of the horrific things that we're seeing in female sports now.
I'm going to assume that on top of the myriad things you already do during the course of a day, a week, a month, a year, this is one of the reasons why you decided to dive into the entrepreneurship pool, because I know you're working with Latina on developing a couple of different things. Let's actually start with the slider pant and what your thinking was in working to design that.
I just wanted to create an avenue for girls to be able to have, sliders or honestly, long underwear is a huge staple, not just in softball, but pretty much every female athlete has a version of something that they wear underneath their pants or shorts when they play. And so creating a period pant, which is basically allowing for when mistakes happen, you want to go out and just play and know that I'm okay being in these white pants that are skin tight, or shoot, beach volleyball where I'm literally having to be so exposed, to be able to have this extra layer that allows for just female athletes to be able to breathe and be like, I'm covered. And honestly, for someone to make something that's like, hey girl, I see you. And what makes you different from the boys is this. And so I'm gonna make sure that you have something that you feel comfortable playing in.
So I know there's a face mask and there's also a batting glove. So I see here. So what's this?
So the batting glove I'm super excited about. What I've seen having two boys is the quality of batting glove that so many of these boys have now.
Oh, so you don't wear through one a week, basically?
Yeah, exactly. But also the leather, the ability to be able to use this all throughout the summer where it's hot and sweaty. So the ventilation was big for me, leather on the inside. So I have blisters right here from literally hitting in the Dominican and getting tons of blisters because I didn't have my batting gloves. But then the venting system on the top to be able to have that breathability so you feel like you're not wearing something that's so sticky. And of course the signature, which was pretty special too. But my favorite part about this, Bonnie, was I wanted girls, I had this vision where I'm like, okay, every time you put this glove on, you're gonna feel empowered. Because I'd always tell girls, I want you to feel like I would hold their bat and be like, okay, I'm putting hits in this thing. It is amazing. Anyone that plays sports, the power of the mental game. And so I want girls, this is superhero moment, right? So they unstrap this, they put this thing on, Bonnie, and it's I want them to feel like now they just put on their cape. You will now have the power to do anything that you want.
We'll put the link to the gloves in the show notes. That card, I know it means a lot to you. Can you read it?
Yes. Every time you put these batting gloves on, please take a moment to feel the power of your confidence in yourself, the belief in your true strengths, both mentally and physically, and that beauty that exists in this game you love to play. These gloves hold a power that once you put them on, I want you to know that you can do anything.
Just by reading that card, you become a mentor to so many young people. And I see the tears in your eyes. Why is it so meaningful to you?
That's why we're all here is purpose, right? There's a purpose for every one of us, whether it's being able to help your community, your neighbor, whatever it might be. And I love knowing that girls and women are going to continue to follow the footsteps of so many before us and everything that they've done. But we have to continue to encourage, because I feel like we are battling, whether it's social media, pressures from all over of everything telling them that they're not. And so just literally telling girls, find you, have that confidence, and go out and freaking scream it on the top of the rooftop, because that is who you are. And I feel like so many girls are trying to be like everyone else versus trying to be exactly who they are. And that's ultimately, it's something simple, but I want to do it.
I also know that you, and I feel the same way, it's taken me a while to understand the power of the platform. We have tremendous platforms. And I think more and more athletes have this ability now, particularly because of NIL. They have platforms, they have social media footprints. What would you say to female athletes now about how they have the ability to leverage the platform they have for something much bigger than their sport?
I think staying true to who you are in that, like where does your heart speak? And I would hope for most of them, it's not right back to themselves. Actually, I just want to continue to talk about me, but like actually, what are the things that you really want to make a difference in? Because just like we talked about with the Olympics, you get these rare opportunities. And even though I want to hope that for women's sports, it's going to last a lifetime, the reality is it might only come for this week, this year. So really think about when a microphone's in your face or you're making a selfie on social media, who are you really reaching? Is it all the people that are going to hit like, or is it those that you're actually going to affect change?
As we wrap things up with you, a couple quick hits. The state of pro softball. For a while, there was no pro circuit. Now we have two in Athletes Unlimited Softball League and Women's Pro Soft Pitch. Major League Baseball, in the spring of 2025, took a 20+% stake in Athletes Unlimited. When you hear that, what does that signal to you about the sustainability of professional softball in the US?
It's everything. It's what we've waited for. And we use the example with the NBA and the WNBA as the standard of how much getting the backing of these leagues that have definitely built a marketplace and a love for a sport that is pretty much identical. And to have Major League Baseball's blessing, one, has been asked for over 30 years and hasn't come because, to Major League Baseball's credit, where has there been a softball league that they feel like is sustainable? Athletes Unlimited helps that Kim Mang is at the helm with her experience with Major League Baseball and her relationships.
MLB's first female GM for the Marlins, so she's got a little bit of street cred.
Oh, yeah, a ton of street cred and relationships with Rob Manfred, who's the commissioner of Major League Baseball. And so to be able to make that tie for the first time in our sports history, and you don't want to feel like, oh, it's not like we needed the guys, but like we needed the guys. Just like, Buster helping me in a clubhouse, like so many of us need the allies. And Athletes Unlimited Softball League, on the backs of women's college softball and ESPN and the ratings that we've had for the sport, we need that sustainability to actually see our female athletes in the primes of their careers, because there's no doubt we're watching college softball. But what happens to these athletes as they continue to progress and actually get better? And so that's where I get excited, is with Major League Baseball's backing, it's knowing that we are now going to have the longevity and the support that we've always wanted.
Speaking of our male champions, I ask every single one of our guests, because I find that it really does take a village to live the lives that we're fortunate enough to lead. Who would you say has been the most important male champion for Jess Mendoza?
Adam Burks. And I know that's pretty cliche because it's my husband, but it's important that it's not a famous person or even an executive, which there are many that make these decisions to allow us, to hire us as they should, right, to be in these roles. But it takes a village to be able to do what we do. And my board of directors is led by someone that is not only my biggest supporter, but is an ally in a way that I feel like is so unconventional, that has kind of taught all of us how a relationship can be.
We have talked, you and I, about how there's gonna come a time where you're not chasing the next shiny object. You have energy for days. You are constantly running. Your schedule is full for months out. Are you done chasing? Or is there something else that you need to chase?
Never done chasing. I imagine I'll be 90 being like, all right, let's go, come on, like what's next? It's just, what are we chasing? And I think sometimes it's that golden carrot or it's what our ultimate purpose is. And I do feel like those aren't always the same thing. Sometimes they can be, which is great. I feel like I'm in a place in my life where I really know my purpose and I really want to follow that. So my chasing will never end, but it's definitely following more of the path of not necessarily where things are shiny and this is really cool for everyone else, but what's actually really cool and important in my life to help others.
And your purpose is what?
To get more girls and women to believe in the beautiful person, amazing person they are, to be able to take on their dreams. I know that whether it's through sports, whether it's through broadcasting, and honestly, whether it's through, courses, education, to be able to get these girls the help that they need globally, whatever that looks like, it's gonna look like a million different things, but I know, I look in these girls' eyes and it's there. It's what I want. It's what so many women have done for me, and it's definitely my purpose to keep doing it for other women.
Jess Mendoza, thank you for being a part of the Athlete Effect Sisterhood.
Bonnie, thank you for doing this.
It is my pleasure.
I feel like we checked every box in that episode. Love the moment Jess shared about how she worked through her paralysis at the plate during the Olympics and how that's translated to broadcasting. All the girl dad stuff. I mean, Gil Mendoza showing up for Jess and her sister, not just doing the extra, building the batting cages, but asking them every day, what are you doing to be better? Such an important conversation we had about the differences in male and female athlete bodies, understanding, hey, there's 5 days a month. We may not be at our peak and being okay with that. And of course, coaches for our ladies doing the work to understand and to create a safe space for our female athletes. We hope you enjoyed the episode. Please subscribe, like, download, maybe even share it with somebody you think might like it. We'd really appreciate it and love you being a part of our community. Show notes, you will find Jessica's social handles and the links to the Lucchini website where you can get a discount on Jess's batting glove. Just plug in the promo code ATHLETE10 for that. Again, ATHLETE10. Socials for the Athlete Effect, Champion's Edge, our TV show on ABC, and yours truly. Hit us up. We would love to hear from you. Shout outs to Jessica and her childhood friend, Nikki Hernandez. So Nikki coaches Ben North Little League in Oregon, and she and her players' parents did yeoman's work, when I tell you, helping secure some of the wonderful video you see in the TV version of Jess's interview on the Champion's Edge on ABC of Jess and the players doing a promo shoot for Jess's batting glove. It's a really beautiful video. Shout out to our pod squad, Allison Johnson, Carlos Delgado, Jess Levy, Kim Neal, and our production team on the TV side for the Champion's Edge, Audrey Smith, Kelly Danshow, Andy Chanthavong, Lupita Davis, Jordan Kessler. Love you ladies, and so glad to be on this journey with you. The Athlete Effect is a Walk Swiftly Productions podcast, copyright 2026, all rights reserved. Thanks for spending time with us today. Once an athlete, always an athlete. We'll see you next time.